This is hilarious. Okay, all I had to do was like say the words enlightenment or point to presence and people would just come years ago. And I said so many more views on my videos because people are drawn like moths to a flame to that, in part not just because we want the truth, but because we're trying to regulate our repressed and traumatized nervous systems. So sitting with a teacher who points to presence is not just always about truth, it's about regulation of the nervous system, a temporary reprieve from the suffering. We feel better. That's not freedom. It's not anything close to it. It's nervous system regulation, temporary. But a lot of us get drawn into that, so we don't actually experience the deep freedom. And then we might even have a shift, but it's not embodied, so we still have suffering. In my view, whether you've recognized presence or not is not the standard, because there's too many people who've recognized presence and then had diseases and chronic pain, only some of which would acknowledge that it came from the buried stuff, teachers included. So I think that the better barometer or gauge as to whether you're free is there suffering still? Because there were two diseases and an addiction after my shift to presence. I wasn't free. I was at peace, knowing the presence as myself, but it wasn't embodied. I can't begin to tell you, there's no way that I could tell you the degree to which this is next level freedom, because we get to the root of suffering. I don't even really fucking know what I was doing, frankly, as a teacher for all those years. When I look back, I don't know. I have no idea. It's like I intended well, but I was repressed and I was pointing to presence and pointing people away from the root of suffering. That's actually very aggressive, but it comes off as really peaceful as good and it's popular. Why wouldn't I have kept doing it unless I suffered? And I did. From that, part of my suffering came from how I was relating to phenomena as a teacher, avoiding the buried stuff, being with what is. That's not true. I was being with what's safe compared to the buried stuff. I really don't know what I was doing before this work. I don't know. And I don't know what you're doing. I mean, I have no idea because I don't live with you. You might have a really good path, but I'm just telling you that we are systematically avoiding repression in so many ways that we don't even know we're doing it because it's repression and it's driving the suffering according to science. What are you doing? Seriously, I watch you guys. YouTube gives me the analytics for like what you guys watch. And although a pretty varied audience, the bulk of the people that watch me also watch videos on awakeness, consciousness, non-duality. And it made me really look at, what are we doing here? What's this about? Because I used to be able to attract so many people when I talked about presence in a way that regulated their system, but I cannot compete with the old Scott Kiloby. 40,000, 50,000 views. I can't compete with that because I'm talking about the truth here. And he's not. He's talking about presence and a non-embodied realization that kept him safe. He didn't have anything to really offer. Until it's embodied, we don't. We're trying to stay safe and get love still. But I can't compete with that ego-ness. I can't. And nor can I compete with anyone else out there whose main objective, even if they don't know it, is to stay safe and get love and keep other people safe with pointing and exercises that make us realize we're just presence and nothing's wrong. When we have a ton of repression and trauma in our bodies that will continue to produce suffering after that recognition. We might not know where it comes from, but it comes from repression. I think one of the issues for me and Dan is like this freedom is so next level. It's not even anything close to what I was experiencing. Not even close. I don't even know how to say that. But then how do we explain that to people? It's like the old way is just point to presence. It's much safer. Okay, this is the way to real freedom, but nobody wants that because then you have to feel the buried stuff. And so we're just setting ourselves up for sabotage and for more suffering is how I see it until we get to the root. I mean, we are so clever, aren't we, at trying to go in every other direction from the root of suffering and not even know we're doing it. Like I watch people who take meditation, do meditation, inquiry that doesn't get to the root or the repression, go to therapy, 12-step, all these processes, and not a single one touches the buried hurt. Not a single one of them does. And yet the buried hurt is driving their suffering. How do you say to someone, everything you're doing is for your safety? You just don't know it. How do you say that to someone whose entire personality is designed to be blind to it and to defend against that? To say, no, I'm not, so that you don't have to feel that. How do you reach people like that? Nobody could ever reach me in repression. Not a single soul could reach me. Scott Kilovey wasn't there to try to reach me. Not a single soul. But yet all the non-dual teachers reached me because I was avoiding anger. If I would have just had one teacher, just one, who said, pay attention to the fucking science, Scott, and stop coming here and start finding out why you're coming here. Why do you keep coming back? You're suffering. Why are you suffering, though? I'm not going to point to presence for you if you're suffering for a different reason. You're suffering because of something that's buried that the presence pointings never get to. Why would I want to do that to you? Unless I'm in repression and I'm avoidant too. At some point, we have to pay attention to the science, guys. We can't just keep telling our spiritual narratives and our realization frameworks and pretend like we've actually ended suffering. Your life is the best evidence. Your life is the best evidence of whether you're on a bypass. If there's suffering, yes, you're on a bypass. You're staying safe, getting love, using spirituality to do that. God, one thing I saw is the massive amount of people who want to be teachers and helpers. I had to put the gate on that because I realized that my own codependency had been involved in that. And when I got clear of that, I don't want to train other people who really aren't interested in freedom. They just want to get love from other people and get approval. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. I didn't realize that so many people were driven on that until I cleared my own trauma. But I look at all teachers differently now. I look at them like, if you don't do trauma work, I just assume you're there to get attention or love, because that's what I was doing with anger repression. I didn't know it. So I'm just going to assume you're doing it until you are more earnest and have more integrity to open yourself up and share honestly. And that's how I think we have to be with each other, is setting boundaries and saying, I'm not going to go down that road again. I'm not going down the road again that doesn't get to my suffering, even if it sounds really wonderful. Even if you dress it up with a lot of fancy language, teacher, I'm not going to fall for it again. I now know why I'm suffering. I'm going to the root. Who's willing to do that when it's safer to go the other way? Who? You? Or you, like so many people, like I was, when I couldn't put my money where my mouth is, I said things like, I want freedom. I want the deepest freedom. No, I didn't. No. That's what my mouth said. My body said no to anger. No, absolutely not. No. And I denied my freedom from the unconscious level the whole time I was saying I wanted to be free. It was a fucking lie. And it's a lie for you too. Whether you want to admit it or not, your body tells you, not your mind, what's really going on. If that doesn't scare you away, I think one thing I'm doing here today is like, anybody who's on the fence, go. Seriously, because you gotta want to do this. Nobody can make you kicking, drag you kicking and screaming to do this. And I won't, and none of my facilitators will either, because we don't have any energy on whether you do it. That would be trauma if we did. But I just know that I want to be clear. Because if people turn away from this, at least I want them to turn away understanding what they're turning away from. That we're getting to the root of suffering, and this is next level freedom. At least know that you're choosing to turn away from that. Because if I don't really clearly state that, you might just dismiss this work as if it's not something really special, and it is. Like, this is different than anything I've done before. And I have never said this as a teacher, and I'm willing to say it now because it's honest. This is the real deal, guys. This is a kind of freedom I didn't even understand was available. It's all energetic. It's our life force, totally online. It's everything we ever wanted. And presence is not enough, because presence that has unconscious repression in it is not freedom. Not this freedom. Never experienced this before. Either I've scared you away because you don't want to feel the buried stuff, or I've sparked something in you that woke you up today, that made you realize you're chasing safety, that you're not really here for the reason that you say you're here, which is for that real freedom. When you're here for the real freedom, you go to the place that you need to go to end the suffering, and you do it skillfully, and you reach out for help when you need it. That's what it takes. If you're interested to start our path, go to killaby.com and you can scroll down to the bottom of the page and take our free test there. But I'm also going to put the link to that in the comments or the description here. I could never have done a video like this years ago, because you know why? I would be too concerned that you wouldn't like me, that you would go away, and I don't have any of that. So I don't know how this will be received. I feel very good doing it, though. That's what I want to say, because these are things that I've wanted to say for a long time. But as long as I even in little bit needed approval, even a little bit, I couldn't be this honest. Thank you.